What are interest rates doing, mortgage interest rates doing right now, and why? What about getting rich with rental properties, as I have in the title? I want to talk about that and share some insights there. Also, want to talk about how do you buy a house with nothing down? And I also want to finish with an article of being part of the sandwich generation. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started, but thank you so much for taking the time and joining me today. Josh Thomas, mortgage broker here in Utah. Been doing this for 23 years now and looking forward to sharing some of these insights with you. Real estate's been super good to me and my family and super good to a lot of my clients, and I want to share some of the ways of making that happen. If you're not already connected to a mortgage lender, you're kind of floating around because you don't get a mortgage very often. I would heavily encourage you to change that. Actually, get a relationship much like you'd have with a CPA or a financial planner, and probably even more so. Even though you don't get a mortgage once a year or even every 5 years, there's so much that we can share with you. And I know a lot of mortgage lenders that don't do any of this stuff, and so why don't you just subscribe and follow me and can they stay connected with me? We offer annual reviews for free to our clients, and that's actually part of what I'm going to talk about today. So, without further ado, let's talk about mortgage interest rates, what they're doing. And so, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we are going to talk about where rates are at. So, it would be great if I edited these videos and made it easier for everybody, but such is not the case. So, what are mortgage interest rates doing? So, let's go ahead and talk about those for just a second. As you can see on your screen, mortgage interest rates are sitting around the 5.5% range now for FHA. And yes, that is up a little bit from where it was a few years ago or a few months ago. Iran has definitely brought interest rates up. And just to connect all this, so this is up a little bit from last week, about an eighth of a percent from last week, but we were sitting at a national average rate of 5.9 back in February. And then this Iran war thing began. And a couple weeks later, we were sitting at 6.6 as a national interest rate. And we are closer to that range now. Of course, what you see on your screen doesn't say that exactly. So let me just kind of walk you through. These are rates that I would give my clients. So 5.5 on an FHA. Of course, you see the APR 6.2 monthly payment. This is only the principal interest and mortgage insurance. This is not the taxes and insurance. Isn't it interesting that federal law now prohibits a mortgage lender from including taxes and insurance in the disclosure of a mortgage payment? Seems really backwards to me. Everybody always wants to know what the total payment is, and yet now I'm not supposed to tell you all that. Kind of lame. Make sure you check who you're voting for, guys. Anyway, conventional rates 5.99. You can see that. Now, why? Why are interest rates moving up a little bit? Well, it has everything to do with the Iran war, of course, and it's the oil, and that's still an issue, but it's also the uncertainty of where all that's going to lay. The Strait of Hormuz and Iran's been way firmer and stronger of an opponent than I think the markets initially expected. And this has gone on a lot longer than I think a lot are expecting. It's definitely created a lot of inflation. Last week, the PCE, Personal Consumption and Expenditures Index, came out. PCE is the one of the four main inflation measures that comes out every month, and it's the one the Federal Reserve likes to pay the most attention to. And that PCE is sitting at 3.5 now, 3.5% year over year. They do strip out food and energy because those two things move up a lot. And the energy, by the way, is part of that's is front and center for Iran. And so that's sitting at 3.2% even after you strip it out. And the reason why the whole thing has gone up to 3.2 is because that energy has been up long enough now that it's started to seep into the prices of everything else. And so prices of everything else, they got down into the mid twos, but 2% increasing year over year over year. And the Federal Reserve is happy and comfortable with the range of 1 to 2%. And it actually is probably healthier for the balance of the economies. But when you're over 2%, they say they're not happy with that. That is why they did not lower their interest rates last week. And I've talked about those a million times, but that's not mortgage interest rates, by the way. When they move their interest rates up or down, it sometimes moves ours opposite. But anyway, the PCE, that was one of the pieces of news that came out that did not help interest rates. Inflation is the archenemy of mortgage bonds. So when inflation goes up, bonds have to go up, and as a result, well, the bond prices go down, which means interest rates go up. So that's part of it. Another part of it is Federal Reserve Chairman Powell. Jerome Powell was supposed to have basically said goodbye last week. That was supposed to be his last Fed meeting. And instead of saying goodbye, he said he was going to stick around as long as necessary, which undermines a lot of Kevin Warsh's influence as he comes in. A lot of people, including all my economists, are very happy with Kevin Warsh. None of them are happy with Jerome Powell being the chair. They feel like the Federal Reserve has been kind of a crap show over the last several years as a result. But they're really excited about Kevin Warsh, and now Powell's like, "Hey, I'm going to stick around longer." That's the second time in history, 113 years of history, that it's actually happened, and only this the is it the first? The first time it's happened, or I guess it's only the second time. Sorry, it's the third time it's happened in 113-year history, but only the second time it's happened without a presidential appointment. So President Truman way back when, or Roosevelt, forgetting. Anyway, I don't know why those two are similar in my mind, but one of them asked previous Fed president to stick around longer, and nobody's asking this guy to stick around longer. So kind of interesting. Anyway, that's where interest rates are. That's where they've been. That's why they've moved around. Hopefully that gives you some cool insight as you think about what to do. Now, before we leave the topic of interest rates, too many people pay too much attention for interest rates. Guys, remember rates go up, rates go down, rates go up, rates go down. Last fall they were down. And I had a lot of people just kind of sitting idle. They weren't taking advantage of them, and now they can't. They can't take advantage of it. And so I would challenge you not to let the mortgage interest rates influence you too much. Of course, it's nice to buy low, sell high, right? And a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to time the market. I'm going to buy something when it's low. Um, you can't really do that. You can refinance when it's low. That's easy enough. But finding a seller to participate on a property that you're happy with right at the moment where interest rates are down. By the way, February, the end of February, that one day, the last day of February was the best day mortgage interest rates have been in 4 years for a day. And then Monday comes around, Iran war began, and that was that. And so that's the problem. Yes, they were down for 4 months, but that hit, or 6 months, but that hit the lowest spot in those on all that time, and then it was gone. And so you just can't time the market that way. Now, I told you I wanted to talk about getting rich in rentals. This is a perfect segue because I had lunch with a friend of mine who has rental properties, and I have rental properties, and so we like to share stories. And I will tell you this as I finish out the comments on interest rates. Neither of us had any inclination to wait for lower interest rates when we were buying our rentals. That just wasn't a part of the equation at all. Of course, if interest rates are really high, that's actually a phenomenal time to buy rental properties, which is interesting. Why? Why would that be? Well, it's because the higher interest rates slow demand because most people don't understand what I'm talking about right now, and so they don't follow it. So if there's fewer buyers in the marketplace that ebbs, then the sellers get more desperate. And so I did not really buy any of my rental properties in a market where people were desperate. It would have been nice, but I just wasn't paying attention to that because it wasn't relevant. When I buy rental properties and when most of my clients are buying rental properties, it's all about the future. It's about the next year, 2 years, 10 years, what, right? It's not about today. If I can lock in a low interest rate, great. But if I can't, guess what I can do? Refinance later. And I can pay attention to my cash flow now, and I can structure my deal so that the cash flow works now. And if I can ever make it better, fantastic. But I can focus on that cash flow and just going from there. And that's what I did when I bought my rentals. I was focused on the cash flow, and frankly, they were cash flow negative. I was losing money when I purchased. But I knew that over time that would change because the rents would go up over time. And boy, oh boy, have they. So let's go back to my friend's example. So I had lunch with him. I've known the guy over 20 years. I still remember the very first time I called him. I didn't know him before I got into the business, and I called him one day and was pitching a refinance to him, and he didn't believe me. I was telling him all about a free refinance, no points, no fees, free. Your balance, whatever it is now, is going to be the same balance after closing. And he was like, "That's not possible. We can't do that." And I'm like, "It is possible, and we can. And if you'd like to at least let me show you, then that's what I'll do." Anyway, super funny relationship. So the first a week or so of the processing, he just kept waiting for me to call him and surprise him with a bunch of fees, and we never did. We did a free refinance for him, and so that locked in a long and glorious relationship. So he shortly thereafter purchased a rental property, And I forget which one he bought first. He bought a series of condos and then he bought one single family house. And I don't remember where the single family house fit in, but I'm just going to focus on the condos because these ones were kind of crazy. So they were non-mortgable condos, which meant that most loans won't work for them. Most lenders won't lend on them. And that was the case for him. It was really, really hard to get the financing for him. They were only, I want to say they were only $35,000 condos. This is way back 20 years ago. But guess what? And this is part of what I wanted to share. People want to get rich with rentals, but sometimes they forget how hard it is to get into rentals. For him, there were only 35,000. Most people are like, I could almost pay 35,000 out of my pocket. Well, good for you. He could not. He was a very young man. This is 20 years ago, right? And he's my age. And so he was a young man raising a family and frankly didn't have the money and he had to put 20% down. So in 20% down in $30,000 condo, in his case, it was only $7,000 or $8,000, which is why he was able to do it. But that represented a massive chunk of money for him, and it was a severe stress. And when he first bought them, I think they did cash flow positive, if I remember correctly, but it was close. It was very close to breaking even. Anyway, he ended up getting opportunities to buy several more of those, and they were very special condos, and they were very easy because they had not only an HOA, but like an HOA management and everything. And it was almost like investing in a 401k. There was so little for him to do and just kind of manage the portfolio. And so he ended up doing that, I want to say 5 times. I lose track because somebody else I also knew was also doing the same thing with the same condos. And I don't remember who bought the most, but we'll just say it's 5 for the sake of this conversation. Um, anyway, so I think he was making like $100 a month or something like that after a short time. And as he bought them, of course, the prices were going up. And so he ended up, basically breaking even somewhere close to that, maybe $100 a month positive on each one. But as you can stop and pause, that's, four, five, $600 a month that he's making kind of forever, right? And it's a positive income. And anyway, he chose to roll those into the mortgages to help pay him down a little bit faster, and then he ended up restructuring those mortgages. Now today, and this is why I wanted to bring it up. He and I talked, or had our lunch, and it was really hard for me and my family to get into our first and second. Excuse me, I got the hiccups while I'm recording. Embarrassing. Anyway, it was really hard. We got into our first rental. I remember the conversation with the realtor that helped me, realize that I could do it. I had been wanting to buy a rental for several years, and he had rentals, and he asked me, what's holding you back? And I said, well, the down payment. And at that time, I think we had a 10% down option. And so 10% down and buildings were two to $300,000. So we would need, $20 to $30,000. And I had 20, but I couldn't find any $200,000 buildings that I wanted. And not to mention that was like all that I had. That was everything. And I was really nervous going into a rental with no cash left over, and rightfully so, by the way, if that's you. That's a healthy concern. Well, anyway, he asked me, he says, well, don't you have your cars paid off? And my income was healthy at that time. I could afford to have a car payment and it wouldn't break the bank or anything. But I did. I had my cars paid off at that time. I'd been really good at paying off debt and really bad at saving. And so I had about $20,000 is all, and all our debts were paid off, minus our house. And so when he said that, I was like, everything processed just like that. I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. I could totally take out. I have actually a couple cars paid off. I could take out car loans for each of them. That would give me an extra, 30 grand, which is all that I need for a down payment on a $300,000 house. And so anyway, long story short, within 30 days later, we were closed on a fourplex, put 10% down. It was only $340,000 that in that day. That same fourplex, which I actually own a neighboring fourplex at this point, those are worth minimum 750, maybe 900. And so a pretty good investment for 9 years ago. Anyway, long story short, it's hard. Getting into a rental, it's hard. It takes a lot of effort. And then furthermore, it also takes careful, cautious work. So when I got in, I did end up spending most of my available cash, but as you heard, I had some availability with my or car loans and stuff, where I did free up some additional cash. And cash is king when you get a rental. You need to know that you can weather any storm that's coming at you. And I've chosen to buy old rentals. All of my rentals have been old, and that's usually a harder way to go. New rentals are nice because there's a lot less maintenance. Older rentals, there's lots of maintenance. Um, but the more you can save, the better. And so getting rich with rentals, I love that thought because so many people want to do it, but a lot of people don't follow through, and it's gonna be hard. That's my message to you. It's gonna be hard, but it's worth it. Today, he is collecting 4,500 bucks a month permanently on these condos, right? 4,500 a month. I just want you to stop and pause. He wakes up on May 1st, and by the end of the day, he's already started making money no matter what he's chosen to do, right? And by May 30th, he's collected $4,500, even if he retires and everything else. And so rental properties are really powerful, and it's inflation adjusted. So that's a huge component to these is they're inflation adjusted. That's a really good thing. Um, so yeah, I mean, let me know if you are interested in buying a rental property and want to kind of explore that. It is hard, but it is so worth it. And 10 years down the road, I can promise you, you're going to be really excited that you have. Even I've had with those older buildings, I've had those moments where I'm like, oh, this is, in fact, right now I'm going through it. We're replacing a bathtub and there's mold behind it. And we find out that I guess the drain never was connected to the actual drain. It's been draining into the ground. I don't know how that's a thing, but that's what they are saying, showing me that they're finding. And anyway, there's a lot of work. I'm about to spend probably $10,000. Well, that sucks. That's obviously a bad day. I get that message and call me emergency, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and it's on a Sunday. It's always on a Sunday, right? It's on a Sunday. Sorry to call you on Sunday. There's a work emergency, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, is somebody dying? Did you need to call 911? Okay, then it's not an emergency. Call me tomorrow. That's not true. You can't do that. But that's the whole reason I hired the property manager. So they can deal with it. And they want to call it an emergency, knock themselves out. But the key to why I'm not freaking out about that is because I have thousands of dollars I've put in reserve. As the years have gone by, it's been mega important to me to have 6 months of my monthly payments and savings. And so since I'm paying around, well, actually, let's not do that math. I don't want to put that out on the video. Maybe it bend people's minds or something like that. But anyway, so rentals are great. Hope you're interested. Let me know if you are and you want more information. Let's talk about 100% financing. Video is actually getting long. You know what? I am going to skip the 100% financing. I'm going to take that out of the title and I'm not going to do that. But look for my video next week. I'm going to talk about that and VA loans, talk about a couple of amazing 100% financing options we have. And VA loans are incredible 100% financing type of loans as well. Lowest rates we have, fantastic. But let me go ahead and just finish because this is getting a little bit longer. I want to share again I'm going to share my screen with you because I want to share an article that I read. So let's do this. So, more sandwich generation Americans feel financially strained by caring for parents. Nearly 70% of middle-aged Americans now I'm mixed emotions here to share this, but as you can tell by looking at me, I may not notice this as much, but other people looking at me can tell I'm one of these middle-aged people. I've become a middle-aged person. Well, middle-aged is probably not a fair appellation, to be honest with you. Unless I'm going to live to 100, I'm not in the middle. Um, anyway, so nearly 70% of middle-aged Americans say caring for parents is stretching their finances. Finance of America I'm going to read the whole article. It's pretty short, but I want to read and comment as I go. So, Financing of America shows rising financial, emotional, and physical strain among sandwich generation. Sandwich generation is the Gen Xers, and they call us the sandwich generation now sometimes because we have the baby boomer parents and we have the millennials and Gen Z kids. And frankly, a lot of millennials and Gen Z kids, by far not the majority. I've met a lot of very sharp, very well qualified millennials and Gen Z, but there's a bunch of them out there that are just babies. Oh man, just wusses, honestly. Like they're not able to care for themselves and they're grown adults, and it's embarrassing, frankly. But such is the life. I mean, we chose to raise them that way, I guess. And so shame on us and good luck as you're going to deal with it. But you're still dealing with it. A lot of parents are dealing with these incapable kids who should be grown-ups and handling things on their own and pull up their own pants. But sorry to sound really rude. I don't mean to, but let's be honest. Okay. Let's not be lying to ourselves here. If you've got somebody that's in their 20s and 30s and they're incapable of providing for themselves, but everything about them is normal, they're not handicapped or something like that, there's a problem, right? And so figure it out, but that's really on them to figure out. Anyway, on top of that, we have baby boomer parents who are now hitting the stage where sometimes they're incapable of taking care of themselves, and it's scary and tragic for a lot of families. But this one hits real close to home this year. And so I'm going to read and then kind of share my own after I'm done bashing people. I'm going to actually share a little bit more about my own. So the share of Americans who identify as part of the sandwich generation, ages 40 to 60, caring for both parents and children, who say they are financially exhausted by parental caregiving has increased over the past 3 years. In total, 69% of respondents. Now, there's only 2,000 people that answered the survey, so this isn't like humongous. But man, 70% are exhausted and financially strained. Overall, about one-third of Americans in this age group reported experiencing significant challenge. Okay, like I said, quit babying your children. That'll be a big part of it. But I want to focus on the end here. So the emotional and financial strain of caring for parents and children at the same time is real and growing. Macroeconomic pressures such as inflation have placed increased pressure on sandwich caregivers. One of the philosophies my wife and I discussed as our kids were young is my wife wanted to help the kids in school, and we promised them that we would do that. Well, I promised her. No, I didn't. We didn't promise them that we would do that. I told my wife, as we've discussed this and counseled together, I told my wife that my perspective is I wanted to make sure I took care of myself first. When we get to that day and age where we are no longer able to care for ourselves, I don't want to be a burden on my kids. And so I told my wife I wanted to focus on making sure that our retirement was sound before we start burying money into our kids and their colleges. University, you can borrow money if you've got to do it. You can work hard and get scholarships. There's a billion scholarships out there. I don't know if you know this about scholarships. I'm no student loan expert. To be clear, I'm just a parent. But as a parent, I have observed and read about some of these scholarships, and as a mortgage professional, I have seen a lot of business owners. And this is what happens in the United States: a business owner strikes gold with some idea or some application or some machine. They strike gold and they start making money hand over fist, and they make money, so much money, so quickly they don't know what to do with it. And the IRS is happy to tax the crap out of it. I remember having one client, and this wasn't even like massive amounts of money. He made 200,000 bucks one year, and I looked and he paid $50,000 in taxes. 50 grand in taxes. Now, a lot of people might not feel bad for him because he made 200 grand, but the next year he made 300 grand. Now, so even fewer people feel bad for him. That year that he made 300 grand, he paid $100,000 in taxes. Now, guys, just want to pause for 1 second and go, okay, I get it. He's making good money, blah, blah, blah. But are you picking up on the fact that the extra 100 that he made, which should be massive celebrated, right? Like, congratulations, man. That's freaking awesome. Way to go. Half of it went to the IRS. So he didn't get half of it. I mean, are we doing this so that we can fund the IRS? Or are we doing this so that we can, accomplish some dreams of ours? I mean, crap, he only got 50 grand of the 100 that he made. Well, anyway, what I found is a lot of business owners are out there looking for ways to spend their money before the IRS gets it. And he would be no exception. A lot of business owners then find that they can give money to scholarships, and they like that idea. They like the idea of helping the kids, especially if it's in their own industry, right? Make progress. And so they offer these scholarships, and then the money goes through the scholarship. And now the IRS doesn't get it. The business still doesn't get it. The person still doesn't get it. It's spent, but it's spent on a better cause than they feel like for the IRS. So knowing that, there's a lot of scholarships out there, guys. Make your kids pay for it. Make your kids work hard and go get those scholarships. Okay, continuing. Survey also found that 30%, 29% of respondents expect their parents to move in with them as they age. And then this one kills me. Where did it go? About 21% of Americans aged 40 to 60 said they delayed major life events, including marriage or home ownership, because of parental caregiving. Guys, this one's a mistake. Okay, home ownership can be a cash cow for families. Delaying home ownership, bad choice. I know, I get it. It's really hard. I've been watching people, I've been experiencing it myself for 23 years. I know it's hard. But guys, it will be an assistant to you. It will be a massive windfall for you. Do not delay home ownership by, even if you're caregiving and stuff like that. So there's part of that. One thing I want to stand, let's see, another part. More than 50% or more than half, 50% percent of caregivers said they had to choose between career and caring for their parents. Yeah, I get that. You got to sacrifice, you got to take time off work. You can't grow at the company or in your career when you're doing that kind of stuff. Some might even have to give up their jobs altogether. Um, that's hard. More than double the 26% reported among adults overall. Amid that strain, there are steps caregivers can take to alleviate stress and set a path forward. Our survey shows that honest conversations about family finances can make a meaningful difference. Guys, I do annual reviews with my clients all the time. You guys don't talk to each other enough. I ask, you don't talk to yourselves enough. I ask questions during these annual reviews, and sometimes people have never thought about these things. Do you have a trust? Do you have guardianship papers? Those are stupid little things that 9 out of 10 people seem to answer no. They don't have them. And so they don't think they have anything worth having a trust for or whatever. Guys, that is a mistake. Those are simple steps that people can take that have a world of impact on the emergency situations. So talk to each other, talk to your parents, talk to your kids, talk, and do your annual reviews with me. Yet only 39% of respondents said they discussed with their parents financial needs with them in the past year. At the same time, 60% said such conversations would help them feel less overwhelmed. Okay, so there's the article. I'm going to share now that I've bashed everybody, I'm Mr. Perfect. I want to just let you know this year, so the time that I've recorded this, in this annual fiscal moment, I have spent $10,000 of my own money helping a kid and $3,000 of my own money helping a parent. So guess what? Yeah, I'm still here. I'm very guilty, same as so many other people. I get it. I totally understand. And it is definitely very hard. And I don't care how much you make, that money means something. And I don't make, I think, as much as a lot of people think I make. So it's that we miss that money in a major way. Um, I was much happier helping the parent than I was the kid, to be clear. The kid needs to pull up their own pants, right? And be an adult on their own. But I was the parent that didn't finish raising them properly, I guess, and so feel some responsibility there. Anyway, long story short, I don't want to end on a heavy note. Buying a house, fantastic idea. Getting your kids ready to buy houses, fantastic idea. Helping your kids, pointing them to us and or helping them with gifting money and or co-signing with them. These would be powerful ways to help them not just be incapable, but to become better. We've helped a couple of our kids buy homes and to watch their maturation as they've done so, and the questions that they ask and the responsibilities that they shoulder. It makes me very proud as a parent, and I can see the strength to not only us, but to society in general. So homeownership is a powerful thing. Next week, I'll talk about 100% financing options and how we can do that, how you can buy a house with nothing down right now today. But yeah, in the interest of the rest of your time, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. But you have a fantastic day. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully, this was useful. Tell me if it was or wasn't, right? Make some comments, share some stuff, direct message me, email me, call me if you got that. Tell me what you think, what you'd like to have me talk about, if I talk too long or too little. let me know. But otherwise, you have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you later.